Hi, I'm Dave Epstein. Welcome to Growing Wisdom, and I am sitting in the garden to table plot here at the Mass Horticultural Society. This is Elm Bank, and Mass Hort is actually headquartered here, and one of their projects they're working on is this great idea to take food, grow it yourself, and bring it to the table. So some of this food will go to different food banks, some of it will go to private individuals, some of it may even go to restaurants. But what I really want to talk to you about today is the fact about how they set this up. It's just an amazing way with these raised beds to get so much produce out of an area. So let's talk about the raised beds for a second. If you notice, some of them are very regularly shaped. We'll come over to these. You can see how rectangular they are. So the rectangular shape of the raised beds here, these are 11 1/4 by 1.5 inch pieces of wood. It's not pressure treated wood. They filled it with this great soil, and now each of these beds could have a different theme. So this particular bed could be for greens, the next bed might be for tomatoes, you might have a bed for cucumbers, and you might have a bed later on for melons. And the beds are so wonderful because you can work really easily on them. Notice they're not very wide, so these are about 4 feet wide. So one person can be on one side working, and one person can be on the other side. And that really lets you get in here. You can weed, you can fertilize, you can harvest without having a very wide bed where you couldn't get across into the middle. You might be wondering what this stuff is. This is actually winter rye, and because the raised beds, it's very difficult to plow and bring a lot of new soil in. What we do is we add the winter rye. It's an annual winter rye. If you're going to do this, be sure you add the annual winter rye, and then you'll turn it over and it will break down and provide nutrients for each of the raised beds. So it's a great way in early spring to kind of beef up the soil for the following produce season. So I showed you the rectangular beds, but you know, you don't have to stick with a rectangle. There's these sort of weird little shaped ones here, and I love this. It looks like some sort of puzzle piece. And what's really neat about this is look how you can get in right into the bed here. I can work on this side, I can work in the middle, and I can work on the other side. So 1, 2, 3, 4 people can get to the entire bed. So it's a little bit larger, but you only need 4 people to really cover the work. And when you have something like this with a lot of volunteers, they're fortunate in that all these people can be working. Also notice, look up here. So we've got this wire, right? We've got a pole, and they've strung a wire here. And what you can do is you can hang either string or netting down from this and allow your peas or your beans or any other climbing plant to grow up here. And this would also create a very interesting look to the garden as we get into the summer season. So what we're showing you are different elements in a very large open plot. You could do all of this even if you just want one raised bed. And one thing I really like is what's down underfoot here. We just have some of these wood chips, and it's nice because they're thick enough that the weeds aren't really coming through. It also provides a little bit of cushion as you're walking or kneeling. You really can work fairly easily. If you're starting a bed like this, and especially if it's a small area, you may want to put some landscape fabric underneath your path and then put the wood chips on, because that will help to really prevent weeds for several years to come. Now, you don't have to just have raised beds inside of a plot like this. You could put a big pot, doesn't have to be this big. Now, this is big enough that you could put a small fruit tree in here, a dwarf fruit tree, or perhaps you just want to plant some annual flowers to add a little bit of color to your vegetable garden. So remember, they've taken these 11 1/4 by 1.5 inch pieces of plywood, and they've used here this great L-shaped bracket, this brace right in the middle, and notice there's screws rather than nails. That will help to reinforce it a little bit, and it's that simple. These beds are really put together in a very simple way. It's not complicated, not over-engineered. You could do most of this yourself. You can see here for the corner, they've sliced this at an angle, so it makes a nice little corner, and you can basically create any shape you want to fit your particular area. You know, one issue that some folks have is that they may not be sure their soil. Is the soil contaminated? Perhaps there's some lead in the soil that you're worried about. So by doing the raised beds like this, you could put down a piece of landscape fabric underneath, or even a piece of plastic underneath there, and maybe poke some holes in it. Put your soil on top, and that will allow your vegetables to grow in clean soil, even organic soil that you know about. It's not foolproof because some of the soil may leach up, but really that's a great way to kind of create brand new, high quality soil in an area that otherwise you might not be able to grow. So the Garden to Table project here at Mass Hort has done a really phenomenal job of setting up an incredible infrastructure to be able to plant almost any type of vegetables they want. You can do the same thing on a much smaller scale at your home. I hope you've enjoyed this edition of Growing Wisdom. For Time Warner Cable, I'm Dave Epstein.